In our case, it was preserving knowledge, particularly traditional knowledge, is critical. It's in itself an act of sustainability. It's social and cultural sustainability, really. And you know, for me, it was really important to establish what, in the country that I've chosen to live in, what the origins of that culture of Australia is. Because I don't want to be sitting here talking about what it was. And so, you know, I made the effort to get up and sit down with that culture and have an open, honest conversation around their culture and what it meant. And you know, that conversation has lasted 18 years and keeps going, and I don't think it's going to end. What I found was something that was underappreciated, undervalued, underacknowledged, if acknowledged at all. And so, you know, I think it's a super important part. And you know what, whether it's the indigenous people of Australia, or if it's the indigenous people of the Amazonas, or if it's, you know, traditional Italian culture, it doesn't make any difference. You know, we have a duty of care in any generation to preserve that knowledge. We wanted to make sure that this compendium wasn't just for us, you know, as in for a chef or, you know, a non-indigenous person to search. We wanted to make sure that it was useful and helped in the preservation of indigenous knowledge. And so therefore that brought around this subject of IP. We couldn't put in there for availability for everybody. We couldn't put in there and say, you know, the traditional knowledge of this plant from this community is this, because that's their knowledge, right? And if a commercial company comes along, like a pharmaceutical company, and said, hey, we've been looking for vitamin Z for the last 100 years, and you know, here it is in your compendium, so you know, now that we understand everything about it, we're just going to take that and make a face cream that we're now going to sell for, you know, it's going to be a new, you know, multi-billion-dollar industry. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to give opportunity to indigenous communities to have benefit from their knowledge, their traditional knowledge. But at the same time, we wanted to capture that traditional knowledge and put it somewhere other than the oral practice that they have. They're also, you know, there is an element of concern that their, you know, great-grandchildren won't have access to some of the traditional knowledge, you know, this very quickly disappearing. So the IP part became super important. That IP is such that if you are a Ghana man, the Ghana people are in the Adelaide Plains, for example, that's a language group of indigenous people there. And then you've got Pitjantjatjara, which sort of neighbours the Ghana people in Adelaide. They're sort of more in the hills and beyond. And if you were a Ghana man, you would go into this compendium and you would be searching for, you know, an ingredient that is on your country. And if you were a Ghana man and logged in as a Ghana man, you would see traditional Ghana knowledge, okay? You wouldn't see Pitjantjatjara knowledge, you wouldn't see Wadandi or Nyunyu or any of the other language groups. Likewise, if you were Pitjantjatjara, you'd log in, you wouldn't be able to see the Ghana knowledge. If you were you or me, a white guy, or from anywhere else around the world, you wouldn't see any of that traditional knowledge. And that's the important bit. If you as a manufacturer of a pharmaceutical company say, hey, this vitamin Z thing, we kind of know it's out there somewhere. We don't really understand what the true value of it is in terms of, you know, an anti-aging cream or whatever it might be. Can you help us find that? Absolutely. We'll sit you down with a Ghana man or woman and we'll talk about, you know, first of all, before we even talk about the ingredient, we're going to talk about IP. You know, the traditional knowledge which leads to you making your anti-aging cream belongs to these people, not to you. And if you want to somehow create a product out of that, then we're going to have a conversation around the rights of that knowledge.